So I'm gonna be mixing my Lancet Navy and the Lancet Blue because I know that I want a blue that has the brightness of the lighter color but has a little bit of the depth of the navy. And I know that if I mix half and half, then the navy is gonna completely overshadow the blue. So I am going to, I'm going to use that same calculation that I use for my space dyeing, and I know that I want a really vibrant color. So I have about 100 grams of fiber. So 1% of that is 1 gram. I'm going to double that because I know I want a really rich color, and this is going to be in a vat. So I'm going to go for 2 grams of dye. So I'm gonna try to get 1.5 grams of my blue and then 1/2 gram of the navy. And I'm mixing these separately just to be as precise as possible to try not to have a spill. Next, I'm going to add a little bit of water to make this into a paste. Stir it really well and then add a bit more water so it's easy to pour. Okay, I've let this soak for an hour after washing it, and now I'm gonna take out my fiber and kind of squeeze it gently as I'm pulling it out, retaining as much of that water in the original pot as possible. And then I'm just gonna put this into a secondary container, and then we're gonna put this on the stove and bring up the heat to just before boiling. Once I put this on the burner, I'm gonna go ahead and add in my dye. And I'm gonna make sure after I add that I'm gonna dip my container to get all of the excess dye out of the cup. And then just take that straight to the sink. After you've added the dye, stirred, and let it sit for a few minutes, I'm gonna stir one more time and then add in my fiber. You could also dip dye this if you wanted to leave a little bit. You could tie a choke to the handle here so only part of your skein was dyed. I'm gonna fully submerge mine. And stir that in. And this is all while our heat is ramping up. And I'm continuously stirring this every couple of minutes while I'm waiting to hit that right temperature. And for wool, we're really, again, going for just before simmering or boiling. 200 is kind of the ideal temperature. For silk, 180 is. So for this, I'm just kind of doing this by sight. Once I have a good bit of steam and I don't have any rolling water, then I am going to check my color, and if I'm happy with where that's at, then I'm going to add in my vinegar. Okay, I'm starting to see some steam and the color looks gorgeous. Once the temperature gets where you want it to be, so once you start seeing that steam, again, not seeing any bubbles, I'm gonna add my tablespoon per 100 grams of fiber, and we have 112 grams, so I'm gonna do 1 tablespoon and then just a bit more. And I'm gonna try to add this not directly onto the fiber. And then stir it up really well. This is gonna help that dye strike even more. And I actually am starting to see a little bit of rolling water. So I'm just gonna turn my heat down just a bit. Okay, after I've added that vinegar, I'm gonna stir this every few minutes for at least 30 minutes. I'm going for a darker color, so I'm gonna go for a full hour. I would recommend if you want a really dark or a really rich color to stir and keep that heat going for up to an hour. And then once that hour is up, I'm gonna turn the heat off. I'm gonna let this sit until I can touch the fiber comfortably. We want it to cool to room temperature. And then I'm gonna take it to the sink and rinse it in cool water. We don't wanna rinse it in hot water, that's gonna break the bond. So rinsing it in cool water with just a little bit of Synthropol or just a little bit of that Blue Dawn soap. So I'm gonna continue stirring for the next hour.